Welcome. My name is Penelope Chatterton. Welcome to Awaken the Dream. My friends, it was so nice to drive over the Connecticut River and get here today without driving 3 hours. I'm grateful to Tim Riley, who directs. Well, I was asking him today, how long have we been doing this? And neither one of us know, but I bet you it's been 5-6 years that we've been specializing in Joel Goldsmith, and I'm dedicating this program to him because I haven't talked about him for a while. He is a mystic. He created a movement called the Infinite Way. He was a salesperson in Brooklyn, and he was Jewish, and he followed in his father's footsteps around retail, and he thought that was great. And he found that he sold things because he was so kind. He wasn't pushing people on, you have to buy it. He wasn't a typical salesman. And then his father got very ill. Christian Science saved his life, and that was the opening for Joel to say, I've got to figure out how that happened. So he got into Christian Science and studied Mary Baker Eddy. He became a reader in the church. He became a healer for 30 years plus. And he really, really honored it and loved it. But he did move on because, as churches can do, like governments, like investments, politics can enter stage left. And he noticed that being a mystic and being in the presence all the time, there could be interference if you are in an organized situation. So it came to him, thanks to God using Joel as an instrument, as a transparency for the law of God, the law of love, the law of the infinite way. And so I stand grateful to Joel, and I thank him. Joel S., Joel Saul, Joel Solomon, Goldsmith. He was born in the late 1800s, died in the early 1960s. He's written over 35 books. He's got 1,200 hours of tapes. You can find him anywhere, and frankly, he has just millions of followers. It's a unique study because it's demanding. Joel is the first to admit he taught, and that's how he learned himself, which comforts me because as I do my book reports and my homework, I'm lifted by the work that I do and the sharing that I give. And that's what the Infinite Way is about. So thank you, Joel. I talk to you. You're my teacher. So, my friends, Joel takes us way back to the Hebrews and how they tried to get to God. They wanted to reach God. They thought if they sacrificed babies, animals, they gave gifts, they pledged something, they tithed. They thought they needed to do that to reach God when they found out their problems didn't go away from doing that. And so all of a sudden, spirituality sort of surfaced. Something happened where all of the creeds and rituals and all of the ceremonies just fell short of having inner peace. So when spirituality arose, and then we had Jesus the Christ, who came in to tell us that in fact we were invisible in this mystical world. Joel really loves Jesus and learned from Jesus and felt Jesus really laid down everything beautifully for us to understand mysticism. Mysticism is an inner life, it's an inner world, it's invisible. And Joel found out that it was invisible. First of all, he left his own body. I remember the tale of when he came back and bawled like a baby. I know that experience. And how he was a transparency for anything and everything that he said. When he delivered a lecture, he meditated. And he was nervous, but as soon as he got up there, his meditation gave him everything he needed. He was a transparency. So on that note, we have spiritual healing that has surfaced. And so we have healers. We have Moses, who pulled manna from the sky. We have Jesus with loaves and fishes. We have mystics in history that walk on water, that know we're invisible, that know when Jesus did rise from the dead and came back, and he shared that in fact, that is the truth. And that is a mission for all of us to understand, how do we walk the infinite way path? How can we be mystics? And here's the punchline from Joel. The punchline, 90% of getting there is meditating. He uses that percentage, 90%. And finding that quiet place, your place where you can be alone and you're private and you're meeting God face to face. You're not having concepts and you're not having statements about what God is. You're not using your mind. You're relaxing into the presence, and you're surrendering your will, your desires. You're surrendering your mortal life of wanting stuff, wanting this, that, and the other. You become desirelessness. You give up your ego. You give up wanting fame, fortune, because you find out that when you surrender all of that, what beats that 100% are miracles. And miracles are the cause, and from the cause, of the law of God. So how do we get to the cause? The substance of life is within. Jesus told us we all have the Christ within us. The substance is sharing. The Infinite Way teaches we are here to share a very special task. Each one of us is given something. In the whole scheme of the universe, we all are given a special task. And that way, we walk on water, we have a boss, we have a guide, we have a buddy, we're never alone, and we have to remember that second to second to second. That's a big order. So obviously it requires practice. And I'm a practical sort, very practical as a matter of fact. And I find the discipline required to be in touch with the source is a big task. It's work. But you can fall in love with it when you see what happens. All of a sudden, by degrees, and Joel uses the word by degrees we grow, because we're all at different stages of our development. And as we grow and we find, the more we rest within, in the presence, omnipresence, omnipotence, the only power is the law of God, which is the law of love. That's all there is. And omnipotence and omniscience, the only wisdom there is waiting for you. When you get your task, God is going to give you the wisdom to fulfill it, but you got to listen. You got to listen for your very life. You've got to be quiet, you've got to be inner, and you have to, number one, the biggest thing, surrender the earth plane. Surrender the mortal world. Surrender anything you think you might want that's going to make you happy. Because you will find, once you do that, and the will of God starts to come through, and miracles happen with things you don't expect that are just so, it's peaceful, it's loving, it's peace. We want peace here. And God, Joel mentions, this is a very frightening place. This is a plane, this dimension is fear-based. And it's sad. Joel makes that comment. It's sad that we are very fear-based here. You turn on the news and that's it. That's all you get. And we have to watch being busy with very outer activities. Another way to become mystical is not to be plugged into lots of things to do all the time, tearing around, listening to too much bad news. We need quiet. And that comes to us as we cultivate what happens. It grows within us that the still small voice is our world. It's so comforting. And our whole universe is in that world. The entire universe is in there. We can be anywhere within that world. And we can let go of people we think we need to keep in our lives. We have idols, maybe. Idolatry is about something here you think you got to have that's important to you. You got to, no idols. No people, place, or thing that's greater than the still small voice. And that sometimes asks us to stage left, exit, and get out of the way of yourself. And maybe there's some blocks in your life that you need to let go of, and you find they're in your way. And it's okay. It doesn't mean you don't love one another. And that's the big rule. You love one another. You love God with all your heart, with all your soul, and with all your mind and might. We go to the spiritual world. The infinite way, Jesus was saying, the infinite way, Jesus was telling us that God, the Father, is only spirit. Now think of the word spirit. Spirit is an energy. It's invisible. It's intense. There are no words for infinity. There are no words to eternal life, which we can touch on while we're here. It's always available. Now, of course, I think I mentioned this in the last show, we've got to practice. And what does that mean? We need to be aware. Aware of the spirit all the time. Now I humbly say, I work at this because I see where I am. I see where I am and where I lack and where I need to work harder or I need to remember more. I need to be more aware. Awareness is key to the infinite way. And the infinite way says we're here to share the nature of God. What is the nature of God? The nature of God is sharing the love within us with a task that we've been given. So when I'm thinking about what the Hebrews went through and how the church often would persecute spiritual healers because it didn't fit in with the creeds and the rules, like the Ten Commandments are rules, we go deeper than the rules. We have to look at the mystics from, Joel mentioned, the 12th to the 17th century. In Scotland and England, there was a lot of spiritual healings. I think the church kind of wiped that out. And now, as Joel says, we are in a wonderful climate for spiritual healing. And the churches of England do spiritual healing. The Catholic Church does spiritual healing. Slain in the Spirit. People know about the Spirit. So my friends, here's the catch. Something that helps you sit up straight is to remember you really are not body. You are invisible. Now think about this voice that comes through to guide you. You don't know where that's coming from. It's coming from within you because you've asked to be guided. And when you meet God face to face, you don't take concepts and rules and all kinds of energies mental to get to Him. You see God face to face, which means, to me, you share your heart. You share your vulnerability. You share your feelings. You share, I don't know, I'm a firm believer myself that the heart is where God lies. And He loves us, He hears us, He knows our needs more than we do. So here's another wonderful trick we get out of the way. So what we really are supposed to have, which is greater than anything we could have fathomed, will come to us. The added things come when our ego, when our needs, when our desires are gone. When we say, please go away, all I want is the voice of God. God, what are we doing today? Or how can I look at this differently? How can Christ within me help me see something that's a problem, which isn't a problem, because Christ won't see the problem. God doesn't see human problems. Kind of like that one from Joel. No, doesn't see them because He didn't make this world. He didn't make the mortal world. He did not make the dimension of human beings and fear. God doesn't know anything about that. He's invisible and working with us when we sink into spirit. We need to be in spirit. We need to be listening. We need to feel deeply the presence. That can happen with practice. We need to feel deeply the presence. So allow yourself. I mean, what a wonderful idea when you're alone, when you might be a little nervous about talking about something with your friends, when you can really let your hair down. I find whenever I let my hair down, it produces miracles. Whenever I feel something, if I have pain, I have a miracle around that. I have guidance around that. I'll trip over my miracle and start laughing. I've had 2 miracles since I moved here. One is from a lady that was a mentor and a voice teacher of mine when I was a teenager. Something fell out of my closet onto my head, as it will, and it was from Margaret saying, "Welcome to your new home." And then on Facebook, somebody had a quote from Letters of the Scattered Brotherhood, which was my friend Joy, who was saying, "Welcome to your new home." And then I have a friend from the Cape who my brother-in-law wanted some gin, so I pulled it out, and on it was, "Welcome to your new home, Diane." And so Spirit has the funniest, cutest, most warmest ways of saying you are invisible and you're in touch. You're eternal. Before Abraham was, I am. You have never not been, and you always will be. You will be in infinity forever. So, as Joel says, we drop in. We have a transition to yet another stage, maybe another assignment. When I think of what Joel accomplished with surrender, really, he was so vulnerable. His story is worth reading. His struggles, how he needed and longed. We all need to really be hungry for God. And you know what I read in this particular book, Showing Forth the Presence of God, is that refugees that come here that have been very downtrodden and get into a free school here, they thrive because they know the gifts of what are here, what they've been through. You know, if you've got pain on any level, it in a way it serves God, because then you open up because you need help. So all of us who've had a rough time or had a lot of separation and still mourn people, it's a gift in disguise. Because first of all, we can still communicate, we can still love, we can love the memory, but it takes us deeper. I think separation, transitioning, takes us deeper. And also, yeah, I've had gifts from folks that I have lost that have come to see me. And I just know we're eternal. Heaven knows what's up next, but we know something is, because we exist. So my friends, showing forth the presence of God is literally being in the presence, second to second, moment to moment. Because we're here in this dimension, we're not body, we're invisible. So try and wrap your head around that. We're not body, we are invisible. So, yeah, I'm sitting in this body, but it's not real. God didn't make this body. God made the soul of me. In the soul is this storehouse of love. I mean, just it's vibrant and it wants to pour. And that's when the loaves and fishes and manna from the sky come to us. When we let it pour through us and out of us, we have a storehouse. God lives in the soul, and He's waiting. He's just there, 24/7. Saying, here I am, thank you for coming. Let's do some work together. Let's pour forth. Let me help you with your task. Okay. Now, many of you may say, gosh, I'm clueless. It doesn't have to be being a teacher. You could be a teacher in a school, you can be a janitor. It doesn't matter what you do as long as you're serving. In infinity, we have companionship, we have service, we have love, we have abundance, we have perfect health. If someone comes to you very, very sick, what are you going to do if you don't believe in disease? So you have to watch your faith. Where are you? And I'm asking myself that all the time. Where am I in my faith when my thoughts go to entertaining something fearful? I say, get thee behind me, Satan, as Joel will say. Yes, forgive yourself, because this is a plane that has a lot of worry in it. We need to protect ourselves. So if you don't know what you want to do, I always say a key is, what do you love to do? Is there joy in your job? Are you doing a job for a paycheck, or is there joy in it? Are you having fun in it? However you share is being a mystic. It doesn't have to be being a Joel or a Jesus or a Moses. It's just sharing in your own way with your talent. The talent within you is waiting for you. You all have one. I love that. It's like a blueprint. It's a birth sign. You've got a talent. It could be verbal, it could be singing, it could be drawing, it could be painting, it could be writing books. But inspiration, by the way, only comes from God. Good only comes from God. Think about that. Good only comes from God within you. Good is not out there in this other world. Nah, not there. There's competition, there's one-upping. There's material stuff that people think, oh boy, look at me, or look what I own. That's another plane that God knows nothing about. And you know, it's interesting that Joel will mention we separated because we needed to maybe find a way back to God. I mean, maybe that was our thinking. What can we do? What can I do to get back to God? I'm separate. We're not separate. The thing is, there's no place to go. There's no place to reach for, because we're already home. We already have it. So we're not separate. We just think we are. So you see, because that's a process for us and a discipline for us, we can work on that. Yeah. I love the idea of the word invisible. Yeah, I'm invisible. I have invisible friends. I have invisible goals. I have invisible talents, like you all do. And you know, it's interesting that the church would come in and be very frightened of mystics. Because if, in fact, in this plane, we've got to do the creeds, we got to do all the rituals, we got to do the beheadings, or we got to do whatever we have to do to say, hey, look what I've done, God. I sacrificed this animal or this baby. Look what I've done to get back to you. Because there's such a fear of being separate that we are now in this great climate. Joel is victorious, telling us, guess what? The climate is there. Millions of people are mystics, performing miracles quietly every minute of every day, saving the planet, lifting us out of this mortal world. That's a goal. And you know, if you hurt enough and you get tired enough of being here, you know, the peace that you want is there. The joy that you want is there. The supply, the abundance, the added things come to you. Supply comes from the substance within. The supply is cause. Cause is your soul. Cause is being in touch with perfection within you, with sharing the infinite way teaching. Like Joel said, I learned from teaching. And I understand that when I do my homework, and it's sometimes hard because there was so much information in showing forth the presence of God. I thought, how am I ever going to juggle all of this? It was overwhelming. So I just finally this morning decided I got to just surrender all of this and hope that, you know, the power that be that I ask, please help me perform what you would have me do and perfect that which I need to do within myself. That's a constant prayer. Perform what you would have me do because you will give me the wisdom to do it. And that's critical, that we can depend. That's what faith is. It's not blind. It's true. It's real. It's permanent. It works. Faith sounds like something that you wish for. Faith is a given. It's the truth. Truth is law. The law of good and life is yours, and it's all that you are. There isn't anything else but that. You are the law. God is within you. You're part of the big scheme of this universe. You've got a special little niche. Isn't it amazing that when I think of the awesomeness even of that a special little niche for all of us, that we are part of a scheme. People come and go in our lives that are supposed to. We can surrender everything when we know, I think the comfort of not being alone is critical. You can get used to that companionship, and you can love that companionship, and there's such a comfort. You can be in big families, but you still have the comfort of the within. There's no comfort quite like that, because people in your life come and go. But the within is always permanent. It's always there. It's always waiting for you. So my friends, I'm encouraging you to check into the infinite way, especially if you haven't found a way to find a study that fits you to a T. Now, here's something that Joel mentioned in this book. Not everything you will vibrate to. You might not vibrate to a lot of different teachings. That's fine. And we're not, as Infinite Way students who are only devoted to God, we're not special people, by the way. No, we're not special. We're just devoted. If something fits you like a glove, it's yours. If it doesn't, there's no judgment on that. Find what fits your soul. Last thing I thought would be one book from Joel would blow me away, and it did. And I've been on that path ever since, and you know, you can't take anybody off their path. That's a tip. And don't try and convince anybody that your way is better than theirs. That's just ridiculous, because everybody's at a different place. And everybody is where they vibrate to. Something within them says, this is for me. It could be for a little while. It could move on to something else. But whatever it is, leave it alone. Let people want to hear what you have to say, as they say. Don't shove anything down anyone's throats. They'll find you. They will find you, because there are so many people on your wavelength, in your consciousness. Let me share my consciousness with others. Let me lift humanity. God, Joel says so much. We're not here to just appease and serve a few. No, we're here to serve the whole of the sonship, the whole of humanity. So whatever you do, think of the fact that you are serving the world, not a few people. An invention like Edison, he was a genius. I mean, the inspiration that comes to anybody in any field is from God. It's inspiration. That's divine. That comes from love. That's from a center that says, I've got this task for you, and you're going to really love this task, and it's yours. So I am encouraging you to meditate as Joel does. 90% of the time, if you can be present, even if you're out in the soil of your life, try to be just aware. Ask yourself, am I aware of who I am? That God holds my hand, God is in me, God is my presence. I am an aspect of a collective whole. I'm an individual expression. And I want to serve because that brings, serving is how we have. Serving and pouring is how it comes back to us. That's what abundance is. It can't come any other way. You pour and you receive. It's simple. Sometimes these principles are so simple that you realize they're hard, but they're really simple. So I encourage you to look at the principles of the infinite way, to look at Joel's work, and I thank him and dedicate this program to him today because he's giving me some peace and he's helping me on my journey. So thank you, my friends, for joining us on Awaken the Dream. Talk to you again soon.